Okay, so the goal of these tutorials is to get you guys to design and 3D print a keychain. But this is kind of an interactive keychain, and you can see here on my screen it's going to be one that can move. So it's a spur gear set, so it's a simple gear train, and you can see that these little gears are going to snap in, and if I kind of hide the gears, you'll see that there's little tabs that these gears will snap onto, and then there's a little opening for like your thumb, so it's kind of like a fidget spinner, well, not really a spinner, but a fidget toy that you can kind of spin and play around with. So it's just a keychain. Okay, so you're going to open up Fusion and follow along as I do these tutorials. Okay, so I'm going to start a new design, and I hope that you do the same here. And we're going to save and immediately save it as POE keychain, and then you might want to just put your name after it. That way when you turn it in or give me your files, I know whose is whose. Okay, so for this first part, I think it's best that we just focus on creating the two gears, the big and the small gear. Okay, so in order to do that, and I know you guys have started to work with Fusion a little bit with creating parts, which we're going to do, but there's also some tools here that I want to show you where you can create some parts based on some parameters. So up top here along your toolbar, I want you to go to your Tools menu. So right now you'll probably see that your toolbar looks like mine, but up top you're going to see the words Solid, Surface, Sheet Metal, and Tools. I want you to click on Tools, and there's this button called Add-ins, and if you drop the add-ins down, you're going to see scripts. These are kind of like macros. If you're familiar with what macro is, that's kind of what these are. If you're not familiar with a macro, don't worry about it. It's just kind of a, like I said, a parametric way of just creating some geometry from some very simple inputs. Okay, so you're going to go to Scripts and Add-ins, and you're going to, we're under the Script tab, you're going to scroll down and you're going to find Spur Gear. There's two of them. Pick the first one, and you're going to click on Run. This window is going to pop up. If everything is in millimeters, then I would recommend switching from standard. It would mean that it's in metric, so you would want to switch it to English. Okay, so we're going to take a minute, and you're going to want to go through this slowly to make sure that everything is matching what you see here on my screen, because there's a lot of information and data about gear, tooth, shape, pitch, and so on to make sure that these gears are going to fit. So we're going to start with the diametral pitch. So we're going to set that to be 20. And we're going to do two gears to make a spur gear set. One gear is going to have 12 teeth, and the second gear is going to have 24 teeth. So we'll start with the little one. It's going to have 12 gear teeth. We do want to give it a little bit of lash. Backlash is just like the play or the clearance between the teeth. So in this case, we're going to go with 8 thousandths of an inch, so 0.008. And then the radius, and you can see from this, this diagram here, the root fillet radius is what I'm talking about. It's this little corner rounded radius to allow the tooth to roll as they make contact with each other. You don't want this point to get caught up in this corner, so you want to make sure it's rounded. So we're going to, since these gears are really kind of small, we want to make sure that that root fillet radius is nice and small also. So we're going to go with 25 thousandths of an inch, so 0.025. And since this is a keychain, we don't want it to be too bulky, too thick. So I'm going to change my gear thickness down to a quarter of an inch, 0.25. As a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at it and making a measurement, I'm going to realize that 0.2 is probably a better gear thickness for us. Now, these have to rotate on an axle, so we want to make sure we have a diameter in the middle, a hole diameter. By default, it's a 1/2 inch. That's far too big. We're going to go ahead and go with 0.2 for our, actually 0.25 for our hole diameter. So I'm just going to pause for a second, and if you want to pause your video and make sure that all of your numbers are the same as mine, make sure you do that. And then take note and maybe write down somewhere the pitch diameter, because that's going to be really important, because the pitch diameter is where this phantom line, which is looks like a center line, but it's got 2 short dashes. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to explain what this pitch diameter is. Remember that number, though, and write it down somewhere. The pitch diameter for this gear is 0.6. Hit OK. And there we go. I'm going to go to my front view and zoom in a little bit by rolling my middle mouse rolling button. So you can see this phantom line showing about the halfway point between the root. Imagine these are like teeth, like in your mouth. This is where your gum line would be, and this is where the top of your tooth would be. The pitch is the halfway point, okay? So when we're talking about the dimetral pitch, we're talking about this circle right here. It's the halfway point. And that's going to be important because when we mesh 2 gears together, it's important that these 2 circles become tangent. And you'll see that in just a second when we put the next gear in. Okay? All right, so we've got our 12-tooth gear there. We're going to add a second one in. All right, so to do that, we're going to go to our add-ins again. We're going to go back to scripts, and we're going to scroll down, and we're going to pick spur gear. Now, the nice thing is when we hit run, it's going to remember everything that we put in, so you don't have to duplicate all these entries. The only thing we're going to change is the number of teeth, 24. So everything should stay the same, especially if you want these 2 gears to mate with each other. If I change things, then that's going to be a problem. They're not going to mate. So make sure you just change the number of teeth. Notice how when I increase the tooth to 24 that my pitch diameter changed. Write that number down. So the last one at 12 teeth was a 0.6 pitch diameter. Now I'm at 1.2. So I'm going to hit OK. Notice how it inserts these 2 gears right at the origin, so they have the same center point. So now I've got this circle here showing me that 1.2 diameter pitch, and I've got this 0.6 circle right here showing me that one. Okay. So I want these 2 gears to mesh. Now be careful, don't left click, hold, and drag, because look at what I just did. I moved these. These are just floating in space. So I better go up here to my undo drag components, click, and make sure you're not moving these things around, because that's the next step here. Is we're gonna move these, but we're gonna move them so that they're meshing with each other. Okay, and in the next couple of videos, I'll go into how we're gonna constrain them so that they rotate and that they're fixed to the shafts that we're gonna create. Okay, so we're gonna move one of these gears over the correct amount of distance so that they mesh. So you're going to pick, really I guess it doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to go with the 12-tooth, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go up to move, copy, okay, and this box comes up. This box, you'll notice I have a couple of different things I can do for the move. I want to go to free move. Actually, I'm sorry, translate, not free move. Free move means I can grab it with my mouse and just move it anywhere. I don't want to do that. I want to translate it. And translating allows me to type in specific distances that I want it to move. And you can see these arrows here. And I can also look up here at my view cube and see that my X is pointing up, I'm sorry, my Y is pointing up, my X is left to right, and my Z is in and out. So I can look at this, and let's say I wanted my, my spur gear, my little one, to be on the right-hand side. So that's along the x-axis. And if you recall, when you put these gears in, the little gear had a pitch diameter of 0.6, and my large gear had a pitch diameter of 1.2. So if you think about it, the distance from the center of this small gear to this part of where this, this dashed line is would be half of that pitch diameter. So this distance from here to here would be 0.3. So I'm going to type in 0.3, and you'll see that it moved over 0.3 inches. But I also want to add an additional radius of the large gear, which is the distance from the center of the large gear to where its diametral radius is. And remember, so I'm going to go over here again and hit plus. Remember, that one was 1.2 inches, was its pitch diameter. So half of 1.2 is 0.6. So look at what just happened. And let's stop for a second and think. My goal was to get these two circles to be tangent. In the start, these two had the same center points. So really, I just needed to move this one of the gears to the right or to the left or to the top or to the bottom. It didn't really matter, but I had to move it over exactly one radius plus the second radius was what I needed to do in order to get those to touch. So that's where the 0.3 and the 0.6 came from. The 0.3 was this radius of the first gear, and 0.6 was the radius of the second gear. That's why I told you to remember those pitch diameters as you created the gears. So that now they're lined up in terms of distance, but look, those teeth are hitting each other. That's not good. So before I hit OK, I'm going to go to this rotate. And before I can rotate this gear to get those teeth to not be hitting each other, I got to pick, and notice how this is blue. It's asking me for an axis to rotate around. I'm going to click this circle here as what I want to rotate this gear around. Okay, and then you'll see this little bubble that appears, and I'm going to rotate it 15 degrees, just like that. And I'll tell you where I came up with 15 degrees in a minute, but you don't necessarily need to even calculate it. You can kind of just visually shift it until you get clearance. But the reason why I got 15 degrees was that I know this is 12 teeth, so I really kind of just took 360 and divided it by 12. And what that did was it gave me oops, let me just do that one more time. Grab that one, right click, move. Right click, move, select my axis. There we go. So 15 degrees.
So, this is Mr. Geist. We're going to pretend he's a zoo animal, so we can't go in there and feed him.
Hi!
We can't feed Mr. Geist. But
I'm going to pause this recording because I'm being distracted. Okay, so anyway, we're back. I was just being distracted by morons. Okay, anyway, so yeah, and then I fixed this too, and I forgot that I wasn't recording. So you can fix these at any point just by right-clicking, going to move, and then making sure that your item is selected, making sure that your axis is selected, and then putting in your rotation, which I already rotated it, so I don't want to rotate it another 15 degrees. So I'll put in 0 and just cancel. Okay? So that is creating your two spur gears I think that that's enough for this first video. The next video is where we are going to create the base in order to lock these things. Right now they are still, hit save, don't forget to hit save. Hit OK. The next video we are going to create the base that holds these things, and we can lock them so that they don't move, because if you notice, if you grab a gear, oh no, it pulls it away. But you can always hit undo. So do not grab these things and move them until we move on to the next portion of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.